So welcome to Hank's True Barbecue. It's time to fire up my Parrilla that we built last week. I think this is a really nice way of grilling. We're going to use birch wood today. Previous episode I mentioned oak wood not being a great choice. Now oak wood is brilliant for traditional barbecue, but it's not going to work that well for this application, and the reason is that oak, when you burn it, it turns to ash immediately, whereas mesquite, for example, which is very common in South America, goes from burning wood to charcoal and then to ash. And we're going to utilize the fact that we produce charcoal here in the brasero, and that's what's needed. So oak's no good, even though I have plenty of it. In Sweden we don't have mesquite, but we do have plenty of birch wood, so that's what I'm going to use. I've tested this before, fine-tuned it a bit, and I think it turns out really good. So how does it work then? Well, we're going to set this on fire. We're going to leave it burning for quite a few while, add logs after logs after logs, and then after a while the charcoal is going to drop down the glowing embers, and we're going to shuffle them over to the grilling side where the shovel is. As you can see, I fabricated this one to move the coals over, and then we're going to place the food here. So what's cooking today? Well, I'm going to do a tri-tip. I think it's a really good, nice, perfect choice of meat for this type of grill, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to serve it with a traditional chimichurri. You can find the full recipe on my website, hankstruebarbecue.com. But I think it's time to fire this one up. So I'm going to show you how I light the fire. I use the bark from the birch, which is absolutely brilliant for lighting fires. I think I'm going to go slightly thinner than this one, because that basically means I'm going to produce charcoal quicker. So do you have to use wood then? Not really. I mean, this is not religion. You're not going to be called a heretic just because you use charcoal instead of wood. And if it's going to go quicker, then why not? Go ahead. It's all good. I'm going to use birch wood today though, because I really like this old school way of cooking. But first, let's go inside and trim up that tri-tip. Now, trimming a tri-tip is easy. Basically, it's just going to be squeaky clean. Either they come pre-trimmed completely, or like this one, not trimmed at all. So that's what we're going to do. Start cutting off all the fat. There's nothing to save here, so just going to get rid of this. And it's quite easy, I would say, because you just use the knife, let it follow in between the fat and the muscle, and should be a quick job. This is Heritage Angus, which I think is brilliant. Good quality Canadian beef. Alright, so now it's trimmed, looking a bit smaller but looking really good. All I'm going to do now for treatment is simply to apply some salt. This is what I call a dry brine, which amplifies flavor. So 1 teaspoon of table salt per kilo of meat, which translates into half a teaspoon per pound. I thought about using a rub, but actually I'm going to go old school on this one. So I'm going to apply some black pepper once it's cooked. Once it's done grilling, but I'm going to leave it like this for a few hours in the fridge before we get the fire going. So the salt has time to get into the surface of the meat and amplify flavor. So what I'm going to do now is pile on split after split after split for like 30 to 40 minutes, and then we should have some charcoal forming underneath. Doesn't matter, you could also kind of like tap it or hit it to shake down a few coals before they're actually ready. That works just as well. So I'll be monitoring this one through pit mastery, I guess, nice old school way of cooking. So I'll keep tending to the fire for a while, and I'll see you guys in 30 minutes. Now if you look closely in there, you can see some charcoal forming already, so I'm gonna give it a light whack and tap some of them down through the grates. So now you can see the glowing embers starting to form here, dropping down. Just shaking this a bit, shaking it up to make sure that there's a good fire going, and we get that charcoal down as we go along. But it's looking good. 10-15 more minutes, then we'll start moving the charcoal over from here to where we cook. So it's looking good, got some charcoal going. I'm gonna add a few more splits here to the fire to keep it going at all times, and then I'm gonna start shoveling. That's this. This is what we're gonna use to grill with. That's a good heat right here. Then again, if it's too hot, we can simply move the steak over, which is a real nice way of creating 2 or 3 heat zones. So now we got a good start. I'm gonna add charcoal as we go along, but I think it's time to put that tri-tip on. Let it cook slowly. I expect this to take slightly less than 1 hour, but we'll see. So I'm just gonna keep tending to the fire, moving the charcoal, and so the cook is progressing nicely. Just gonna flip this one. Flipped it a few times. Starting to get a nice color. But of course we're not done yet. I'm gonna check with my trusted thermopen. That way we know for sure. Now a few words about fire management. I do let the charcoals drop down, but whenever I have a really thin stick like this, I kind of, instead of waiting for it to trickle down and by then it's all gone, I'm simply gonna move it over like that to keep this fire going, because here is always a constant supply of wood. This works really nicely. And every now and then shake this up a bit. You can see when you move the logs or splits around when the fire gets really going or not, so it's good to just pick it up and make sure oxygen gets in. I gotta tell you folks, this is an excellent way of cooking. I really like this style. Now look at that tri-tip coming along and turning the fire, and everything's running super smooth. Time to check temps. Oh, it's looking good. I'm aiming for 58 Celsius, which I'm 57, 58. I think that's good. The surface looks really nice. Good crust on this one. Oh, look at that. I'm gonna move it to the side, let it rest for 10 to 15 minutes before we slice it. And that's to avoid the carryover heat, overcooking it. So just wanna wait that out, and then I'll have less juices leaking out too. So soon enough, it's time to eat. All right, steak's rested, and to be honest, I can't wait anymore. Now, looking at the muscle fibers, this is relatively uniform, so it's kind of easy to start slicing it. So it's time for a quick nibble. Oh, this is looking good, real good. Nice color on the outside, nice, really nice juicy texture. So this one's for me, the chef. Delicious meat, really good meat. All right, I think I'm gonna have to bring this in to share with other people. Otherwise there's gonna be a bit of an argument, I believe, but this is the way to cook. Oh, so tasty. So the tri-tip is done, and this is exactly my way of cooking. I really like this live fire cooking using wood only. It's just brilliant. If you haven't tried a parrilla, to see if you can find somebody who has one, if you can build it like I did, or you can just purchase it. But this is the way to cook. I think it's awesome. Also, this is a nice way of grilling compared to the smoking I do in my offset smoker. Many good ways to cook food over live fire. This is definitely one of my top 3, no doubt about it. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next episode.